All right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 14th, 2021 Board of Selectmen's meeting. I would call it to order at 6:01 p.m. This is a Zoom meeting. It's open to the public. And as this is a virtual Board of Selectmen meeting, we're using the Zoom conferencing format. If you wish to make a public comment and speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature on your device. The moderator will be notified and will unmute you. Please identify yourself before making comments. Okay, with that said, I'll take attendance. Alan?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
And I'm here. So we have a quorum. Item number 2, approve the September 23rd, 2021 Selectmen's meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Alan?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
I say aye, motion carries. Okay, this is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issues that are not on tonight's agenda. This is your opportunity to do so. Do we have any hands raised? Okay. All right, then we will move on to item number 3, approve certification of authority for transactions with HM Payson and Company. Lori, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, because we have a new treasurer, we need to update our paperwork with HM Payson to give Denise Brown authority to interact with those accounts. So I am looking, you have enclosed in your packet this resolution that Jamie Mitchell as clerk will have to sign off, and you guys will need to sign, but we are looking for the adoption of that resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt the certification of authority for transactions with HM Payson and Company resolution. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Pat?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
I say aye, motion carries. Item number 5, award the bid for the sewer bypass pump.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hey, Chris.
Everybody can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this year we had budgeted $48,000 for the purchase of a sewer bypass pump. We solicited quotes from 3 of the more major manufacturers, Godwin, Griffin, and Pioneer. And after looking at the specifications as well as price, the low bidder was Godwin Pumps. So based on price, specifications, and our operating needs, it's our recommendation that we purchase the pump from Xylem in the amount of $43,569.64.
So what does this pump do? Just for curiosity.
Sure. So this pump, so this is a bypass pump. So for instance, when we had the issue down at Wells District pump station back in January, and that pump station was down, this would allow us in some but not all circumstances to perform that bypass pumping ourselves. Therefore, we wouldn't have to call in a company such as Nest to continuously vector that wet well until we can get the pump station up and running. The 3 new pump stations that we're going to be putting in will have bypass plumbing provisions for this. So we'll actually be able to tie directly in with this pump and continue to pump if we were to have an issue at one of those 3 pump stations. We also have bypass provisions down at Chicks and Green Street pump stations, the 2 pump stations that were done 4 years ago now.
Oh, okay, well, thank you. Well, I'll make a motion to award the bid to Xylem for $43,569.64. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Alan?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
And I say aye, motion passes. Okay, and Chris, don't go anywhere. Number 6, commitment of sewer fees for new connections.
Sure. So I just remind everybody that last year we changed the ordinance. Prior to this, we used to bill upon application. We would start billing the user fee. We felt that it was a little bit more fair to start billing upon occupancy. So we changed the ordinance to start billing upon occupancy. So the attached properties are all properties that have tied in recently, our new construction homes. So we're asking you to commit these fees for the new constructions for this year.
I'll make a motion to commit the sewer fees.
Just a question before I second it. Do we have to specify the address or who's receiving these? If not, I'll second the motion as stated by Alan.
You can read them if you like, Pat. There are people.
I didn't know. What do we need to do? That's the point.
The motion should be, we're going to sign the commitment, but I would say, the total based on the attached list.
I got it right here. So we have one for 326.83, another for the same amount, one for 278.77, one for 158.61, and one for 197.06, for a total of $1,288.10.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Pat?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Where are we? Okay, we're going to skip number 7. We're going to revisit that at a later time. Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Committee wants to have a discussion amongst themselves before they bring that forward to us.
Yeah, Ken, so the chief is here with us. And
Okay.
Could we just have him give you a rundown?
Absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. So the item on the agenda spoke specifically about fire permits. So starting in early July, when the process was opened back up after the COVID restrictions were eased a little bit, we ended up issuing 18 permits as of today's date. Of those 18 permits, we had 4 complaints. 2 were unpermitted burns. So those folks were asked to extinguish those fires, and then we educated them because the rules had changed. And then we had another one where we had debris left behind, and another instance, the fire was not contained as in the new rules that were given out. So we ended up keeping one $250 deposit. We did run into some difficulties with a couple of other situations where we were unable to identify specifically who was responsible for any kind of debris. But my recommendation is, because we had such a short season and the rules were new, that maybe we carry on with this next year before we make any permanent changes, just to see how things go on and see if we need to make any more adjustments in the fire permits down in Goose Rocks Beach.
We just don't really have enough data to make a good decision.
No, and again, it's been an odd year, as we all know, and the rules were new. So, we're just trying to adjust and give people a chance to adjust as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and so the Goose Rocks Beach Committee through Kathleen Burke has asked that they have an opportunity to discuss it at the November meeting before we take action. But I wanted the chief to be able to give you his rundown of how things went.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If there's no other discussion on item 7, we'll move on with item 8. I believe we have a presentation by John Dykstra this evening. The Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Committee has a resolution regarding water quality.
Yeah. Yes, that's a difference.
And we have Kathleen Burke and John Dykstra in the audience. Mike, could you bring them up as panelists? Thank you.
I'm on my son's computer, so hopefully that did it.
Can hear you now, John.
You're coming in from Bow, New Hampshire.
Just the other side of Concord.
Just on the other side of Concord. We're on babysitting duty, and it's a wonderful chore.
As long as it doesn't last, right?
Yeah, right on. That's the beauty of a grandparenthood. You can give them back.
Yes. Looking forward to that day.
It is a joy.
So is Kathleen up as well?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Really, I'm going to basically turn this over to John. This was an issue that's come up again and again this summer, as and in past summers, the water quality at Goose Rocks. And John and others on the Natural Resource Committee have done much more work on this. So they brought forward a proposal to the committee during the summer, or at our last meeting, I guess. So I am going to turn it over to him to really explain what the concerns are and why the resolution was adopted at the committee level.
Thanks, Kate. I believe the board has a copy of the resolution with them. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes, they do.
Great. And this resolution came out of a continuing concern involving water quality at Goose Rocks, and we've put together just a 2-slide presentation just to kind of set the context. And the current situation, you might be able to wrap it up by looking at the Maine Healthy Beaches reports. These are the folks that are water sampling community, largely Steve Hanna and John Crowder and Linda Hanna, Paul Hogan and others that have digitally collected water samples. They send them in. They're analyzed for fecal indicator bacteria, enterococci. The key here is we're not testing for pathogens, we're rather testing for what is easily detected as a bacteria that can associate with pathogens. And that's an important part that I want to stress later. The Maine Healthy Beaches has put out reports each year. The latest was in 2021, was looking back at years 18 and 19. The fact is that our tidal rivers often showed, a considerable amount of the time showed values above the recommended safe level for these fecal indicator bacteria. And we did, during the 18 season, run DNA samples. And some of those samples, a 20%, but again, it was a very small number of samples, only 65 samples taken, did show the presence of some human DNA. The exact amount is not measured, but it did show some potential indication. And the key there is that the threshold that's been set, this 104, it's a concentration level, was established in California, where they knew they had a point source of human pollution. And it's the human fecal matter that is dangerous can cause irritations and illness in people. So they ran this test on these fecal indicator bacteria and came up with this 104 number. Now, we also know that rodents, dogs, seagulls, large mammals, deer, elk, all produce the same fecal indicator bacteria. It's in their guts. So you can have a very high number and not have any human waste at all. And we also know that non-human fecal matter is not as dangerous to humans as is the human gut, the human bacteria. So we're in a situation where we know we have a high indicator, but we don't know the significance of it in terms of whether it's really showing a concentration of dangerous bacteria. And that's something we really like to get a handle on. There's also a lot of inconsistency is the wrong word, but the sampling in terms of the tide level and the concentrations, what causes a high concentration, when is it safe to swim, when is it not safe to swim. The way we've been collecting data is not bad. It just doesn't allow us to really get a handle on answering those questions. So what we have done is to put together a request that the town would consider, if they come in possession of the American Rescue Plan dollars, that the town would consider spending some of those in support of the water quality research at Goose Rocks. And the way we're specifically requesting support is what was actually brought up in the department, the main Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP, is to look at the variability in the sampling techniques. Look at the effects of tides, look at the effects of higher rainfall, to be able to do a more scientific study. And that does require extra funding because we'd have to fund a lab to stay open. It's a long story on how that would work. But to do it well, we need some extra bucks. And then even probably more importantly, is to understand what the DNA composition of our fecal bacteria is. Does it have a significant amount of human DNA? And if it does, then the really logical source of that is the septic systems. And there are a number of areas at Goose Rocks, particularly up into the Prescott Woods, when you get above the community house, that are still on sewer. The sewer, still on septic. The sewer's not reached them. There's also, concern with Binnacle Hill and other areas. So what we're asking is that the consideration be given to extending the sewer. Look at what that would mean to be able to get those properties off of septic, because they drain right into eventually Batson's River and come out at the beach. And we know the values are high in there, the FIB values. We're not sure they're human bacteria, but they are high bacteria. So that's also part of our proposal. So some rambling, but we have a situation and we don't have enough information to really know how bad that situation is. And we're hoping that we can have your support to get some dollars to help us understand what we're dealing with and what's the best way to mitigate it.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Biddeford, since they go into the Little River also, if you know what I mean? I mean, it's like...
No, they absolutely do. And we've had some initial discussions with Biddeford. We have the septic lines. We know what kind of septic fields are across Little River. But clearly, and as we mentioned in this proposed action, establishing a collaborative partnership will be important. And there's also some work that's being done through Kennebunk that I just learned about, that looking at some actions to understand water quality in the Kennebunk River. And the hope is that we might be able to combine some action there as well.
Just a couple of comments from me, because John is certainly more the expert on it. But speaking as one who lives up in that area back behind the community house, and yeah, we're all on septic up there. And I think, first of all, this summer, obviously we had sort of unusual conditions with the heavy amount of rain we had. But we have had, I think, a lot of days, possibly due to the rain, whatever, where we have had very high readings in the weekly and more than once weekly testings. And I just know from, anecdotally, for example, people saying, no, I don't want to go in that water, or looking at the color of the water, et cetera, on some days was really pretty poor. And not only is this an issue that, the concern is there at the beach. We're not necessarily the ones who can do as much of the interaction with the wider area as to how to solve the problem. So I think that's number one part of the reason we're bringing this forward to you all. But it's also something that we're starting to see. We're concerned about human health and the health of the beach. But there's also, I want to point out that this is starting, these words about information about pollution at beaches, and including goose rocks, is starting to be discussed. Or, I'm looking at an article a ways back from the, I think it was the Bangor Daily News, and I think Lori was quoted or addressed the issue there. But I think this issue of water quality is becoming more of a concern with the public. And certainly we're having to, with the new signage that was put up there, and the fact that we're putting up warning signs when the water quality is testing poorly. We don't want Goose Rock's Beach, putting aside any issues of be a danger to humans, but we also certainly don't want it to get the reputation for being a polluted beach. This is something that's going to affect all of us in a different way from just health, et cetera. I think from a business standpoint, if this beach is suddenly, it continues to get worse and winds up being denoted a polluted beach, that's going to have an effect on everybody in town. So this is John's presentation, I think, is compelling, and I hope that you will, consider the resolution that we've put forward.
So I would think that, for me personally, I would think that it would be a non-starter unless you were able to get the city of Biddeford on board with all of this. And you're not talking about a little money, you're talking about a whole pile of money. And you really would have to get the city of Biddeford involved in that, on their side of the fence.
Well, Al, I think this is really a staged thing. It really wouldn't be a whole lot of money. It'd be tens of thousands of dollars to look at understanding if DNA shows human bacteria, human fecal product is what's associated with the FIBs, this non-pathogen that we're measuring. If it's not, then really all the concerns are really lessened tremendously. The brown water from the rivers is because of suspended organic and mud. It's always going to be brown. And it's always going to have some of these indicator bacteria in it, but all water has bacteria. It's only a concern if that indicator is associated with human fecal matter. And that's what we need to discover. And if it is, then absolutely Biddeford needs to clean up their act as much as we may need to look at potential leaking septic tanks on our side of the river. But that's later. That the big cost is later. I think the real critical need now is to understand what that FIB measures. Those measures that we keep putting up these signs and saying, oh, it's polluted. We don't know it's polluted. we know that the FIB is there, but we don't know if it really means it's dangerous. And that's what I'm really quite keen on trying to understand. Because once we can really say we understand that, or we've got some solid evidence, then we can decide whether we have to clean it up, how we're going to clean it up, what's going to happen, or whether it's really an issue. Because it may not be.
Okay.
Well, we'll take this under advisement. I would like to know more definitively what the DNA says as well, John.
Exactly.
You know, we will have to work our way to that point. But yes, before we carry on with talking about septic systems, et cetera. And I agree with you. The water's brown also. When you get a lot of rain, if you mix salt water and fresh water, it turns brown.
Brackish
you get
is
enough
brown.
of it.
Absolutely.
Yes, you get enough of it. My lobster tank will turn brown in the boat. I mean, that's, you know, so it absolutely. But
that doesn't mean it's polluted. That means
no, it doesn't.
That's nature, and that's
go down to the Kennebunkport River and look on the you know, on the in and outgoing tide. It's brown.
You bet.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think people are alarmed for really not good. I don't think there's solid reasons why they're alarmed, and we need to understand that so we can make it clear to folks.
Yes, we don't want to alarm people unnecessarily, but
well,
if
we
there
are,
is an
unfortunately.
issue, well, yes, I understand to some degree, and you know, we've got a winter to work through this.
Thanks.
So, thank you for the presentation, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Pat, do you have anything to say?
No, I think you guys covered it well. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so moving on to other business. Pat, do you have anything this evening?
No, I don't.
Okay. Alan, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Lori, do you have anything?
I wanted to report that we did have a flu clinic on Tuesday of this week, and our public health department, in partnership with Walgreens, was able to proceed with 194 flu shots, which is about twice the number that we normally do. So it was a busy time, and I think that made a great impact in the community. Also, I wanted to let the board know that staff continues to work with Kennebunk and the Prelude Committee on Prelude this year. They have adopted the Prelude Promise, similar to the Kennebunkport Promise, to have safe COVID measures in place. We are looking at a different way to handle the tree lighting this year, so that people won't be all compact in one space for extended periods of time, but a way to spread out between Lower Village and Dock Square area, and to still celebrate, but in a much safer way. And we've also been meeting with Nonantum and Fire and Ice to again rework those events so that we can have a healthy event.
So, Ed,
Yes.
I do have one thing I'd like to bring up if Lori's finished. I don't know whether she is or not.
Well, we'll find out. Are you finished, Lori, or?
Yes.
Okay. It's your floor, Alan.
The firefighters park where the mailboxes are. We talked a little bit about this when we decided to go ahead and put the mailboxes there for Cape Porpoise. We talked about putting a roof over them before the winter time, so it would keep the rain out of the mailboxes and the ice and keep the mail lady dry somewhat. And I'd like to see us do something about that before winter sets in.
You and I have talked about this, Alan. Do we have a plan yet? I mean, a structural plan?
No, I was waiting for Lori to get back before I.
Okay.
I have to ask the boss these questions, you know.
I hear you.
Yeah, I will work with Public Works to see what we might be able to do before Christmas, before the snow flies.
So what I do have in mind I'd like to see like a metal roof, lower in the back, higher in the front so the snow would go back behind the mailboxes.
Yeah,
Slide
your
off.
basic shed roof.
Slide off, yeah. I think that might work better.
Right.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion.
Well, hopefully the selectmen's contingency account can fund something like this.
Yeah.
We'll put some numbers together.
Thank you.
Are you all done, Alan? Thank you.
I am.
Okay. And the only thing I have is I want to let everybody know that absentee ballots are available in the town office. I picked mine up yesterday, and we'll be voting in a couple of weeks. So if you want to go and get your absentee ballot, they're available, and we have a nice stainless steel drop box out front that you can return them at any time. So head on over and get your ballots. All right, that's all I have this evening. Somebody want to move the warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Alan?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Aye. Warrants have been moved. Okay, we are now going to end our public selectmen's meeting. We're going to go into executive session this evening to discuss some code enforcement issues as per MRSA Section 1, subsection 405, paragraph 6H, to discuss some enforcement matter that may lead to litigation. I don't believe we'll be making any decisions this evening, so we will not be coming back tonight. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Alan?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
I said aye. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming this evening, and we will meet in executive session.
See you in a few.
See you in a bit.